Guess who's back? Back again. FC Cincinnati. Duh. You didn't think I would make this about myself. No, Team Club right here. You're listening to Cincinnati Soccer Talk. I'm Boston Brazel, and this is the 1 hour live show turned podcast for your FC Cincy needs. We are fueled by fans and Swear X to get you all tied into those sweet 0-0 draws. Keep things moving. Try not to trip on our own turf as we talk FC Cincinnati versus Atlanta this week. Also, new signing news as the club brings in reinforcements and Obi Wobodo. That's fun to say. But now, just in time, as they fill one more match day roster spot and only be down one man less than allowed by the league. Despite all the lineup problems, FC Cincinnati will field players for 2 matches this week. And just like us, trying to place people on multiple podcasts, they will hang on and hope for the best. I suppose that is a metaphor for life, though, as we all just wake up and hang on as life throws us a new day. Well, enough of that. This show could be 1 hour of whatever comes out of my mouth, but lucky for you, that's only about 1 to 2 minutes of this show. No, I'm joined by 3 of my favorite people. No one tell any of the other people that frequent this space. Welcome into the show, Mr. Substitute, Brian Weigel.
Mr. Substitute, huh? Yeah, I did do a couple back-to-back substitutes. The stress is so just too much. You know, I don't know how you do it every week.
I listened in, and I heard that you said I was locked up, but it was just a cover. I was really scouting for FCC and Chris Albright, you know, the well-known soccer country of St. Thomas.
Ooh. Where else did you go? Is that just there?
What's where all the great soccer? Puerto Rico as well.
Mm.
Is there any great soccer players that have come from Puerto Rico? Off the top of your head?
Carmelo Anthony owned a team in Puerto Rico.
That's right. Yeah. I really wanted to see that team before it was hurricaned to death.
Oh.
So, kind of a bummer.
The only Caribbean nations I ever remember is St. Vincent and the well, I guess it's not true Jamaica, but St. Vincent and the Grenadines because of that game in St. Louis, and that's a hell of a name too as a country. So, but I'm more partial to Saint Martin because it's one island with 3 different ways of spelling Saint Martin, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's where supposedly they have cheap jewelry, so I try to stay away from there. It's a dangerous place, I hear. I did hear that I missed out on the Jacob debut, so congratulations, Jacob, if you're listening. I heard you did well last week. Appreciate you filling in as well. I did reach out for my vacation, though, because I heard a fellow friend was in need of a U.S. Open Cup ticket, and I needed a seat buddy. So I got a little bit of Wi-Fi, and I reached out to Jason Ashcraft and said, I'm your guy, sit with me, and he quickly shut me down. Jason, I'm still bitter.
I'm so sorry, Boston. Subs was there with the hookup when I needed it, and you just didn't move fast enough. If I knew you needed a seat buddy, I would have told Subs to hold off.
I didn't realize that you were the hottest commodity in soccer land. Everybody wants to sit with you.
I'm a good hang, as they say. You know, you want to watch a game with someone who's gonna just be an enjoyable watching partner. Come sit by me.
McKen Hedger's supposed to sit behind me, but I have no faith in him buying U.S. Open Cup tickets. I feel like he's already that kind of MLS fan that's nah, I don't go to those games anymore. So we'll see. Speaking of U.S. Open Cup, our guy, Jeff Tebbets, is back. He's going to help us break it down. But the real reason he's on this show is because FCC2 played the Revolution this weekend, and anytime he gets a chance to talk about his homeland, you better believe he'll be here.
I missed the second half. I can't help it. It's probably a good thing I missed it because if you were following the game, we lost 3-2, and I'm talking about FCC2 after being up 2-0. So that was a rough game to follow in general. But it's good to be on. And before I forget, congratulations, Cincy Cyclones, for making the playoffs. At least we know we'll be following one team other than FCC over the next few months, hopefully going deep into a season.
I can promise you they won't be. I was there Friday night. It was interesting. That arena is garbage, by the way.
I mean, then again, if you don't follow them, where else are you going to go?
That's true.
I heard Jeff Birding's going to fix that arena.
Maybe. Nashville already has a hockey team, so we don't have to worry about that, too much.
Did you go for dollar beer night? I thought that's the only reason you go to hockey games.
Dollar Beer, Dollar Dogs. There's a unique crop of people that goes to those games. I'll tell you what, it's certainly fun people watching. No, we took some family in from Germany there, and they had a good time. Went down to Pins down there and over the Rhine, did some duck pin bowling, went to some Taglio. Had a great evening with the fam.
Does Alex Yursky still listen to our live show? Because he's the only person I know that goes to FCC games and Cyclone games and was a diehard fan of both. But if Alex is not listening, then I'm just going to call him a Cyclones fan and say he's given up on soccer.
I think he's more gravitated towards the Bearcat.
Yeah. Typical Yursky, jumping on whatever bandwagon you can.
By the way, before we get too far out, most famous Puerto Rico player I know of is Chris Armas.
Yeah.
Yeah. The assistant coach for Man United right now himself played 8 games for Puerto Rico back in the 90s.
I was just going to say, I know him as a coach more than a player.
Yeah. Well, that shows how famous Puerto Rico is for their players, apparently.
Well, if we had a good Puerto Rico player, I don't know. I guess he'd play for America or for Mexico. I don't know. I don't know how that works. But let's jump into best and worst on the weekend. Brian Weigel, go with whichever one you want first.
I would say my favorite. I don't say best. It was a 0-0 game, so I don't know if there's many outliers, but just seeing John Nelson get back on the pitch, getting that added depth at left back that we badly need, especially with Moderita out. Hopefully, have another left back come in here shortly, but seeing him out there and playing very well over that short time and really helped locking down that game, I think was very important, especially because we were very leaky, especially going down to 10 men. So good for him, and I think he showed well in his first appearance. We'll see what he does if he plays this week in versus Pittsburgh or not, but look forward to seeing more of him. And I think my worst was, we keep talking about new additions and changes into the game or into the group, but just the lack of real difference makers off the bench. I think that Coach Noonan's kind of hamstrung with what he can bring in, having to play Harrison Noonan, not necessarily playing Robledo yet, but I think it's kind of our depth and the roster construction that we're still fighting to improve. So I think you just saw it glaringly. The guys, when we go into the summer, when teams can bring in like guys like Dom Dwyer and we're bringing in Nick Markanich, who might be a good player, but I just think the lack of depth is something that we need to improve on here in the next month badly.
I'm going to set up my good friend Jeff Tebbets because I'm going to read some of these comments here. Clifford Adams saying the best is Alex Kahn. Worst, people ragging on Nikki Hags. Clifford's not a fan. Rupesh, Alex Kahn. Kevin Michael, Alex Kahn. Worst, Gaddis. I think he should have stayed retired. Woo! Kevin Michael with the heat on poor Ray. Overall, though, I think that's the perfect setup for Jeffrey Tebbets, who I know was a big fan of Kahn's performance.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. I was trying to get like a chant all weekend long. I was trying to figure it out. Probably his best game that we've seen him in a while. And granted, it's a loaded comparison. 6 saves, very decent. He got the defense got hammered by a lot of shots, and this is coming from a team, an Atlanta team that didn't have much on offense. That Joseph Martinez being out for 6 weeks or so. So the fact that they faced that many shots was concerning, but the fact that he was able to parry a lot of these shots away, that great PK save. I thought he was off the line a little bit at first, but his back foot was on it when he made the save. So solid work for the ex-Atlanta United player. And I'm going to segue. Worst, also an ex-Atlanta United player, Vasquez. I think he looked human. I think coach gave him a very low ranking, or low score, if I recall. He just didn't have it in him. He had 2 shots that really weren't anything to write home about. He got in the way of that one shot that Brenner had on that should have been on goal, but he ended up blocking it and he was in an offside position. And not to mention, he got dispossessed a lot. He lost the ball 10 times, most out of the team. and got the ball taken away from him 5 times, most out of the team. So he just did not look like he had what the magic that he's had these past few weeks.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It was a tough spot for FC Cincinnati, really, in that match, especially as events happened. But Jason, give me your best and worst.
I'm going to do like the Cabbage Sensei and start off with my worst normally. So for me, the worst was 0 shots on target for the entire match. Brenner looked fairly decent, not his best game, but it was good to see him back in the starting lineup. Jeff already mentioned Brandon Vasquez kind of looking human again, having some kind of couple of embarrassing moments. But the fact that we did not have a single shot on target just blew my mind. If you want to count that one Lucho, bank off the top corner as being on target, fine, but that was about it. My best, though, and I mentioned this the other night when we were doing our Twitter spaces after the match, was just the general attitude of the team after going down a man. Previous FCC iterations would have given up after Nick went out. I mean, heck, they would have given up maybe if they were up by 2 men. But the fact that they went down a man, Atlanta United really stepped up offensively. There was at least 15, 20 minutes left in the match with stoppage time. The fact that FC Cincinnati was able to hold the line and pull out a result in Atlanta in those circumstances, I think is a good measurement for at least the attitude of the team. And hopefully they can build off of that and use it for some momentum as we move forward.
I have a new best. What the heck is behind you there, pal? Is that
It's the world's smallest gold. I noticed that too. It's the world's smallest goldfish tank.
Behind me, that little tank, that is my poison dart frog terrarium, because I'm a weird nerd and I have a pet poison dart frog.
You're the coolest dude ever.
I know what to do with anybody who acts up in this show now.
I now have a new nickname for our academy teams, the Poison Dart Frogs.
You answered a lot of questions too. There's people out there wondering what in the world. I sometimes, for you podcast listeners, I zoom in on the hosts whenever they go on this huge long rant and won't stop talking. And so when that happens, we can kind of see more of their background. And so it's pretty cool.
He's got a poison dart frog. That's how your dog got sick.
Yeah. I like how Rupesh in the comments just said nerd, like it's an insult to me at this point.
Oh, Alex with his best said, we didn't have any more injuries. Alex, what about the one right before the match? That one was a big blow to me. Worst, the legend Brad Guzan goes down with an Achilles injury. Yeah, I kind of made a little joke at the top of the show about it if you caught it, but it is a bummer, especially for Atlanta fans, and I seriously don't mean any harm by my joke. He is a U.S. men's national team player, and I think he's had a pretty storied career overall, and it's hard to speak ill of the guy, even though I didn't want him to save too many goals against us. He didn't have to work very hard to do it.
Well, they had the legend Bobby Shuttleworth come in and take his spot, so we can't get away from this guy.
Too bad they traded some other goalkeeper to us. My best, Baji at center back. Who would have thought you could just? Well, sorry, I shouldn't say center back. He was playing in the defense. Everybody's giving me weird looks. Everybody's giving me weird looks.
Left and right back. Yeah.
Did you watch the game?
I did. I got a little overexcited, but no, seriously. How do you ask a striker to come out of his wheelhouse and play this thing? Like I'm just totally surprised by his performance.
Hey, as I mentioned on Twitter, I'm the president of the Dom Baji fan club Cincinnati chapter. I don't know if there's another player who's come in to FC Cincinnati in the 4 years and has walked on the field immediately and contributed is maybe Lucho, maybe a little bit of Cameron, but I think, across the board, he's been asked to literally do everything, and he's performed well beyond expectations.
I'm surprised that he wasn't called for a yellow on that handball in the box.
Yeah.
He obviously waved at it as if he was going to do a I thought he was going to get a red card from that.
That was a reverse hand of God,
Yeah. I was going to say
it was an accident.
Get over here.
He's great with his hands.
No, Kevin Michael said, I think he was a left center midfield. I don't know what he was, Kevin. I just know he was not where he's supposed to be, and it worked out on the defensive side or the midfield side of the pitch. The offense clearly was lacking a Dom Baji. So that's why I'm going to give Baji my best, because you could argue that the 0 goals might be because no Baji, no Vasquez. That he throws Vasquez off, the whole thing's in shambles because we've moved the key piece of this team, Dom Baji. All right. Worst was hoping for more of the super pairing up front. You know, we've talked about many times on the show of what is going to happen with Brenner. Eventually, you have to put him in. Is it going to be Brenner Vasquez? How's it all going to work? Well, we finally saw something besides the Baji Vasquez pairing. We saw the Brenner, Acosta, and Vasquez pairing, and it did not go the way I think some of us thought. We thought it would be a little bit smoother, a little bit better. And it's just the first week of it. So, of course, I'm not writing it off. Give it another roll and see what can happen. And this week is the week to do it because FC Cincinnati has schedule congestion. So real quick, guys, let's talk about it. How do you, and you guys, the reason I want to talk about it is I heard you guys talk about it on the after show. The thing you guys are doing on Twitter Spaces, which, by the way, if you haven't checked it out, was pretty freaking cool. So after an FC Cincinnati match, a bunch of these guys are going live on Twitter just to get like that immediate feel, that immediate
Twitter
reaction.
Spaces. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's dive into a subject you guys talked on there, which is how do you feel 2 teams with this roster when you can't even feel a full match day roster?
2 games, you're saying? 2 games this week?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, Jason, how did you start on that?
Yeah.
You know, for me, you bring up a great point. The fact that we couldn't even field a full roster on Saturday. We're going to see a lot of academy guys called up this week. You have to believe.
I don't know what the rules are.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the rule is, but I feel like we might see some of the academy guys that we have seen kind of peppered into the roster. I mean, FCC2, I should say, but kind of peppered into the roster. I mean, we might see Archimedes this week, a couple others maybe, but I'd like to see Brenner start, give him a half and tell him go out and run up some goals and just hopefully bunker for the second half. But that's kind of what I'm thinking for this week.
Jeff, can you clue us in on any of these roster? Do you know any of the roster rules as far as these Open Cups? What are we allowed to do here?
I am a little lost.
So, okay.
To be honest, and maybe you might want to take this one.
Yeah, so it basically is kind of putting everything back on the leagues. So it basically your roster for the U.S. Open Cup has to be compliant with your league. So that makes me feel, and again, we will know a lot more Tuesday night, that it's guys who have, FC Cincinnati contracts, or, guys that we might have loaned down to, an FC or an FCC2 or go play down there. Like, I would 100% expect to see Zico Bailey. I would expect to see, Robledo, Murphy, Celentano, Markanich, Tonga. So, but I don't think, I don't know what the rule is. Are we going to see Tyrone Marshall's son? Are we going to see Avion Flanagan? These are guys on FCC2 contracts. So I hope we do, but I mean, it's very kind of vague when you're looking at those rules. The one big change, though, is I think we always used to remember when we had FC Cincinnati, especially like when we played Detroit in the USL days, we only could have 5 international players. So that's gone. You're allowed to have however many spots in your roster that your league allows.
That's always a weird rule. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, and that includes like, work visa players. So like Brenner and Barreal now count for domestic players.
Remember as a USL club when half of our team was international, so we could like shuffle people in and out because we had to follow that 5-5 rule. But Nicky Haggs can play. You guys did mention that, which is cool. So if you didn't catch the Twitter Spaces show, Nick Hagelin, because he got a red card, cannot play Saturday, which makes him a prime. If he can roll out that fast from Saturday, he can play Tuesday. He's fully eligible.
Yeah,
so you have to go with that move.
I mean, basically, if they showed up either in a game or even on the bench, they should be eligible for a U.S. Open Cup game. So the fact that we've seen Robledo, Markanich, and Ordonez last year, the fact that you've seen some of these players come in and play significant minutes, even just for one game, that should be entrance for having them start a U.S. Open Cup game.
Yeah. Joe Duncan says if Khan's out, and it probably will be, I hate to say it, Vermeer.
No, he's hurt.
Nope.
Kenneth Vermeer's hurt.
He's hurt.
Oh, there
So
you
that's
go, Joe.
That's the thing. So you have, you had Cruz out for an injury this past weekend. You had Cameron out for an injury this weekend. Now, when you're flying to Atlanta and there's little injuries like that, plus you're playing on turf, I think it's a very smart move to sit those guys. So is it within the realm that those guys play again this weekend? I think it's a lot more likely than they would play this week. So, I mean, I think you're probably going to see like an Ian Murphy next to Hagelin versus seeing Cameron next to Hagelin, even though Cameron didn't play over the weekend.
And perhaps that's some of the reasons why some of these players were sat down, that they weren't allowed. I mean, Cameron is an older guy. You don't want to have him risk an injury on the turf there in Atlanta. So maybe they did the smart thing and sat him down. I think he was was he back in practice today? I can't remember. I know that Alvis Powell was back.
That's good.
Yeah. So I think it's possible. Like, so you saw in the MLS 2 game, that MLS Next Pro game this weekend, that Zico Bailey only played 45 minutes. I think that's a player to look forward to in this match. The question is, where do you put him? He's been playing as a defender as an 8-6 in the midfield for the younger club, and he played, I think, that way in the preseason as well. So, are you going to see him slide into right back, because we don't really have many right backs right now that are healthy? I think that's possible. Or you could, I'd love to see him maybe next to Robledo in that midfield.
The chat is saying Laurel posted today that he is back in training. It still would be pretty crazy, I think, to see him in the match Tuesday since he was hurt. But it is, hey, it's a possibility. I wouldn't count it out. Or you could see whoever else we got rolling there.
I don't know, man. I don't see the upside of playing Vermeer, but either way, who's the guy that you guys are most looking forward to seeing this match? I mean, I said.
Hold on, real quick. Imagine Vermeer coming out, and then we lose the game. Just fan reaction. Everyone would want him cut immediately for losing to a USL.
Don't you put that evil out there.
He would probably pull a Caddyshack and like at halftime and be like, "Ow, my leg, oh my knee,
Oh my arm,
oh my arm."
Player I'm most excited to see. I'm hoping we see Barreal. I mentioned Brenner earlier, but I think this is an opportunity for some of the guys like Barreal to really get some playing time and maybe just put on a show against a lower level team. Now, this is a Bob Lilly coach team, so they're going to crap house their way through it. But I would hope that we get to see Barreal. He really needs some playing time to up his transfer value.
I think a Barreal could play really well against some USL players.
Yeah, I agree. I'd like to see Barreal play like a half or 60 minutes in place of Acosta, and just see what he can do in terms of being in the number 10 position. He played that a few times, subbing in for Acosta, and I think he could work well. He might still be a little young for controlling that much of the pitch, but we'll see. I mean, I also would like to see, once again, see some of the youngsters in there. I'd like to see if we can bring Kimi up. I'd like to see if we can bring even Flanagan up and have him play the left. But I don't know. We'll see.
Well, Kimi is an FC Cincinnati player, so
Yeah.
he should be able to do that. It's the question for Flanagan. I just want to see Isaac Atanga out there. One of the things that kind of drove me absolutely insane this weekend was that he didn't get on the field in Atlanta, because to me, he's a guy that can spread, if he gets the ball, I mean, he can literally take that himself, 30 yards upfield and get some space and kind of kill off a game. And it just kind of blows my mind that we're throwing Markanich out there versus Atanga, who's $4 million player. It kind of blows. I wonder what the heck's going on in that mindset there. But I want to see a guy who, if he can get out there, get some confidence, and we got to figure out a way to get him on the field. It just blows my mind. In moments last year, you saw that he was brilliant, but he also made some crazy mistakes. So again, we don't get to see the in-depth practice every week, but I think it's bizarre we haven't seen more of Atanga this season.
I saw that. It was one of the first things I got off the plane, turned my Wi-Fi back on, and there's Brian Weigel. Like, why is Atanga not? This is Atanga's moment.
Yeah. On Slack. Yeah. I just couldn't believe it.
No, I agree.
What the hell?
My opinion of when I'm going back rewatching a little bit, Noonan, surprisingly, even only having 10 men, I felt like he was still trying to get something, like maybe just maybe can squeak out that win, because you saw a lot of offensive power going in with those subs. And then real quick, let's talk about Nicky Hags. Red card. The commentating team surprised me because they said it was a good move in a way, like that's all he could do there. Did you guys pick up on that? I was very caught off guard by it. I thought, no, I don't know if we're taking a red card's ever good. It's ever the right move.
They might have been looking at where he fouled them, because he fouled them right outside the box.
Yeah.
If he had fouled them a step later, it would have been another penalty kick. So maybe it's more the timing, the fact that if he didn't foul him there and had to struggle to get back and foul him a step or two later, then it would have been double jeopardy.
I could see that argument. So take the foul. It's not a goal. FC Cincinnati gets away with the point, and yet they have to hold on. So it's worth the risk. Just the 10-men thing. Oof, for that long.
I think it was, and I mean, I don't have the replay in front of me, but I thought he had enough position to maybe bump the Atlanta player with his body rather than, trip him up. But in the heat of the moment, that is a kind of a foul that you have to take. But I don't know if it was yellow card worthy, but he had been sitting on a yellow already. So, what's the referee to do? You've already given a warning, you've given a yellow. The card probably has to come out in that situation.
Yeah, it's so close. I think Clifford Adams was saying in the chat, I didn't think it was that bad of a foul. Kind of agree with you, but it's there. It's in that offensive part of the field, right outside the box. So you kind of have to at that stage in the game. I agree. Brian, do you take the red card or do you take the goal? Like, because I think that looked like it was going to be goal.
I take different substitutions that allow us to have a better midfield that doesn't allow that. And Coach kind of alluded to it in his player ratings that, while I think Noonan has done an amazing job setting up his team and getting decent results relative to what we've done in the past, I think there are some questions to be had. I think he's done pretty well. 0-0 down in Atlanta's wonderful result. But I would like to maybe bring in Robledo early versus Harris. Like, what's Harris doing defensively? It just, some of those moves kind of just get me to scratch my head.
Stop trying to dodge my trap questions. I'm trying to get in trouble on social media. Everybody can yell at you tomorrow.
I can tell you something. I mean, looking at that game, in my opinion, it felt like Nicky was the number 2 center back in terms of how well they played. Ian Murphy had a surprisingly good game. I mean, considering how bad he played his first game as a left back and was absolutely torched before. I mean, he looked solid. He made a few fine clearances and did what he was asked for. So I was kind of impressed with Murphy. Maybe we see him on Tuesday.
I think you have to. Cameron's hurt. I mean, I guess Blackett's still, I mean, he's a physical specimen. I mean, he's always running around and doing good things. So he potential, but give the guy some throw him in the water. Let him figure out how to swim. If we lose this game, it stinks, but we have such a short roster right now that I don't want to getting a long cup run scares me a little bit.
That's the MLS fans' attitude of the U.S. Open.
That's
Cup.
right. That's
Speaking
right. You
there.
shut your mouth.
No. It's the MLS fans. It's the MLS fans' attitude that has 25 senior roster players right now.
Come on, we're gonna do it. We're gonna hoist the cup.
What do we have? We have 26 right now. Is that right? 26
Yeah.
players on the roster, and how many of Cruz is hurt?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It scares me.
Kevin
I
on
want to
Facebook.
focus on regular season.
Kevin on Facebook says at least Noonan is substituting where Stom refused. No argument there. I'm glad to have never broached.
True.
We have never had that topic on this show this year, and everyone that listens to the show is very thankful.
He didn't even use all of his substitutes, and I still felt that he did a better job substituting than Stomp.
So he used more than 2, so we're there. I got to move this show along. I think I already added stuff to the show that wasn't even supposed to be here. So you can get in touch with us at Cincinnati Soccer Talk or email us at feedback@Cincinnati Soccer Talk. We love hearing from all of you, and honestly, you can steer the direction of the show if you really want to hear a certain topic. Lay it on us. Our show is, by and large, supported by you. We get great sponsors like SwearOX, but the legwork is done by you. And so we want to give a quick shout-out to Ray Lee, John Davidson, Mike Hudson, Robert Stevens, Laurel Failer, Matthew Adamchek, Riley Stephen Burke, James Denbro, Tom Newhouse, Brian and Brad Weigel, Brian Gills, Dan Albers, Will Kajchek, Ian Rexroad, Augustus Caceres, Bill Antonitis, Carl Fight, Jeremy Schrand, Kyle Pohl, Christina Sharma, Rupesh, Tom Beaversdorf, Jason, who is super average, John Haskell, Ryan Ernst, Mary Lou, West, Antisazi, Rob Pierce, Clifford Adams, Thomas Septh, Pierce Johnson, Mike Parentis, Mr. and Mrs. Wiederhold, Rob Griselli, I'm going to say that different every show, Kevin Day, Jamie Smed, Alex Carnegas, Mike Bowman, Brett Sova, Chris Hubbard, Kevin Cooney, Joe Max, Jack Emery, Sarah Gorman, David Moore, Bob Ryan, Ryan Durkin, and brand new, why do you do this to me, people? Bart Labida. I'm guarantee that's not how you say your name, Bart, but thanks for supporting Cincinnati Soccer Talk and letting me take a shot at your name. If you have a complicated last name and want to torture me, sign up. Support local soccer. We will take it, and appreciate your support thus far. Segment 2, we got to talk about it. FC Cincinnati has a brand new player. Brian, you say his name differently than I do. So how do you say it?
We're gonna call him Obi Wobodo.
Wobodo. See, I'm doing the Alex Steck pronunciation.
I think it's Wobodo, right?
Wobodo.
Obi Wobodo.
I'm just gonna call him Obi because you know me, thousands way to say Albadawi.
Well, I think the Steck official version is Wobodo, so that's what I'm going with. And you can trust me when it comes to pronunciations.
Can we make that a TV spot presented by? Oh man, no, it's exciting. I think we all kind of had some suspicions it was coming last week. Grayson wrote a nice preview piece, and then we followed up with a piece by myself. Nate had a great piece, and then Coach and Nate had a special talking tactics with Coach Goff that came out on Monday. Just talking briefly about what Obi can bring to the squad. He's, I love everybody going out and finding the obscure stats. Fortunately, we're blessed with your support to belong to a scouting service, and are able to watch some great video of the guy, some great stats. I mean, you're going to see a ball hawk. He's all over the place. High motor guy, makes some mistakes clearly, but yeah, he's definitely going to be your defensive presence. I thought it was hysterical during the FC Cincinnati release how they're putting all these like assists and passes. I'm like, that's not the guy we've got. He's a defensive free safety is what Coach said. But no, I'm excited to see what he's going to bring whenever he gets here, and really, where does he fit into that midfield diamond? What do you guys think about spending $3 million on a guy on a relegation side in Turkey?
Wasn't it? He could have been here earlier, but
We wanted him in January and he declined. So we agreed to terms with Ghost Stepp.
I think that's
Allegedly, we agreed to terms with Ghost Stepp or whatever. He declined. He wanted to stay and fight for relegation. That's according to like Soccer Nigeria, I think, .com.
I mean, I wouldn't make too much of it that they're they are a relegated side in Turkey. The Turkish league, you got Galatasaray. That's kind of the superpower in that league. And I would say MLS isn't super far behind, but I don't make too much of that. I do like what I saw in his highlight videos. Now, granted, those are just highlights, but he fills a need for FC Cincinnati. And he's still pretty young, too. So it's not like we're getting a person who is kind of running out of gas on the tail end of their career. This is somebody who could come in and maybe make a name for themselves and that we could transfer on and they can build something here with us. But it's a definite need for the squad, and anything is better than what we got going on right now. It's kind of my attitude.
I can't wait for a designated player to hit. That's why I like the new ones, because I'm sitting here looking at our track record with these players, and I'm like, holy smokes. But then again, a lot of Major League Soccer designated players lately have not been living up to the hype. So I feel like this guy doesn't have a ton of hype, so he can easily live up to it.
He's got a lot of he's sort of a taller gentleman. But he is still a physical player. And that's one of the things that concern me about his type of play. He is definitely someone who challenges the ball and will sometimes depend on sort of the flight of the ref's whistle, whether or not he actually calls a foul or not on it. A lot of the things in his highlight reel, really good tackles, but if it's a bad day, if the ref is getting tired of shenanigans, he's going to call a yellow on that. And that's the thing that's most obvious in some of his stats, is that he's racked up yellow cards quite a bit over the past 2 seasons. With his team, he's gotten 20 yellow cards and 2 red cards that were compiled yellow cards. So he's physical, he will challenge, and he will depend on whistles to slow the pace down.
So you're saying he'll be in every other game with Nick Hagelin? Just swap him?
Could be. I mean, he's had a history of yellow cards, so you're going to get somebody who's going to at least be on the board somehow. But at the same time, he's also playing for a Turkish league for a team about to be relegated, so you sort of have to play with a little bit of, I think, fire in your belly. So yeah.
So a couple things that you know about the Turkish league, it is a physical league. So that's the nice thing about Major League Soccer is it's also kind of regarded as a physical league, not necessarily the most tactically or technically sound league. You were saying this earlier, Jason, is maybe somebody that we could maybe transfer on. I think he's like 25. I hope this can kind of be our Diego Chara. Kind of like for Portland, nice. is somebody that maybe can maybe he's not the best D mid in the league, but if he can be a top 5 and it can be a spot where we don't have to worry about and allow us to provide enough cover that can let Kubo go forward and let Acosta worry about just going forward. How many times did you see Acosta having to track back and make stupid fouls this past weekend? So I don't know if he's going to be next to Junior Moreno in like a 4-2-2-2 like coach said, or is he going to be behind the 2 8s, I guess we'll call them, the Shudlers and Kubo and Moreno, or somebody else we bring in. So the one thing we know is he's been able to stop and he's been able to stop attacks. He's been able to, I think he said one of the stats is that his recovery rate is towards the tops in Turkey. So we need to have him focus on defense and let our playmakers do what they do best. And if he can be a motor and be somebody that we, who's the gentleman that we bought out, this Makocho, if he can be the guy that we hoped Makocho was going to be.
A general.
Yeah, exactly. So Yeah, I mean, we got him for 3 years or 4 years, wherever, how many years it's going to be. But I think overall, you see a lot of positives that he can bring to our group.
And maybe it's because I spent so many years, and I always bring up my time in Salt Lake, but maybe it's because I spent so many years watching RSL, watching Kyle Beckerman. I'm not too worried about him racking up yellow cards. Sometimes that's exactly who you need to break up the opposition's attacks. Someone who's willing to get in there and get their hands dirty. And, I watched Kyle Beckerman go from being a fairly mobile defensive mid to a destroyer, kind of in his later part of his career. But if you're smart about it, you can rack up cards. But if you're smart about it, you kind of know, okay, I need to back off these next couple of games so I'm not racking up too many. But I see your concern, Jeff, but I'm not super worried about that at this point.
If this is a guy that makes Lucas Zelarayan look over his shoulder every 2 seconds, perfectly okay with that. And we look at Y Scout, and it's fortunately we're thank you guys for your donations to allow us to get this service. His recoveries, his counter pressings, interceptions, all these things, they chart them over the whole field. And this isn't a guy that's always stuck in. I mean, he's out in that center third of the pitch trying to wreak havoc. And that's somebody that we need right now. Also, we need somebody that doesn't make a ton of mistakes in the final third. Of all the goals, I think Gushstep conceded 55 goals or something. They were towards the most conceding goals in their league. Only 2 goals this entire season were due to missed tackles or errors by Obi. I think that's a really great stat as well. I know where people love when you pull obscure stats, whatever, but there's a lot of things to really like about this guy that should transfer over to Major League Soccer. Plus, he's going to have a month to relax and take a breath too. So don't get too relaxed, but hey.
If you're looking for a full breakdown on Obi and everything that we clearly aren't qualified to talk about, Coach and Nate, who are probably our 2 best player detail analysis guys, talked about it on I'm sorry, Brian. He lifted his hands in shame. But over on Coach's podcast, Talking Tactics, they have done a full analysis, as well as I believe we have an article up on our website already, right? Of how he'll fit into the FC Cincinnati scheme. That's your true tech analysis. Go check out those after you finish this show, of course, because we have some great more stuff coming up. Brian Weigel paid me to tell you that. Real quick, though, how is so we bought Kubo down to get him to this spot. How likely is it that we can buy this guy down later? Can we pull another Kubo move? Is he a DP permanently?
You're making me go and look at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/roster tracker. So we have sources out there. That's been fun lately. When we heard about this deal, we've been hearing several things are coming. That this was a move that was like a fringe DP, but depending on how long his contract is, $3 million, and then the whole buy down scenario. They say he's making 3 times what he made in Turkey, which that would put him near $1 million. So I'm not sure exactly what can happen, but it doesn't seem like he's an astronomically high figure. Of course, with Kubo going off the books and everything next year. So it remains to be seen what happens, but it's certainly we still have room to bring in other pieces that we're going to need this year.
Cool. Yeah, that's what I was wondering, because you always like to have one DP that's kind of in a range that you can move them, or have a player that you can kind of be flexible with. Kubo's been that guy. So I was just kind of wondering how that would work, and hopefully we still have options going next year. And judging by Chris Albright's record so far, not too worried. I think we have more flexibility going into next year. But let's move on. I think we're going to hit my personal and Jeff's personal favorite topic this week, which is that U.S. Open Cup game. Brad Weigel is going to have everything you need to know about the game versus LAFC on March to Match Day. So we're going to tackle Pittsburgh, our old rivals. Even our old rival podcast, Mongols, is going to be talking about this game, so we should break into it. what are we hoping to see here? We touched on players that we kind of were thinking might be out there, but what else are we going to do here?
Well, we could talk
Hoping to
about
see carnage.
yeah.
6 goals. Put a bounty on there for each goal. $500 bonus.
Wait, we're not playing Detroit?
Just wreck them. I don't care who we're playing. I don't care if we're playing Pittsburgh,
No,
Detroit, Indy.
we beat
wreck 'em.
Pittsburgh. We are playing the winner of Columbus, Detroit, right?
Not necessarily. It's
Talked
weird this
about
year.
this.
It's weird this year because
No, this
MLS.
is a setup.
If the MLS were all coming in at the same time, then maybe. But we're coming in the third round, and then like the top 8 teams from last year coming in the 4th round. So
that's right. They split it up.
They have to redraw. They can't really do any of these brackets, regional brackets.
So you're telling me there's a chance we can get Louisville next round? Is that what you're telling me?
I mean, you look at really what's located in the area, and you've got Louisville against St. Louis City 2. You've got Detroit playing Columbus. We could be playing Columbus next round. It's a possibility. I think Chicago takes on
Forward Madison, isn't it?
No, Forward Madison plays Minnesota. I think.
Okay.
I think Chicago takes on Union Omaha.
Okay.
Yeah. So these are all regional possibilities that we could. We might even see a team from Rochester. Who knows?
All right, Curious George, give us your scouting report of the Pittsburgh Riverhounds.
Curious George. Oh boy, I'm getting nicknames every weekend here. Okay. Yeah, basically, I mean, Riverhounds SC, no matter how you slice it, Bob Lilly has been the head coach for the past few years. I covered the team a little bit in the preview for this game tomorrow. Check it out in Cincy Soccer Talk. They're 4-1-1 this season, so that's a pretty good start out of the gate. Basically, I mean, when you think about Bob Lilly, you think about very defensive teams. You think about the old Rochester Rhinos that he was in charge of, and they barely gave up any goals when he was the manager there. But this year, it's a little different. They've got basically a trio up front that can really pressure you for offense. They had Albert Dikwa from last year. We all know him. Russell Cicerone is part of that team. He actually led the Riverhounds last year in scoring. But the big name that they picked up is they got Dane Kelly, the journeyman who's scored over 100 goals in the USL. So they've got surprising amount of offense in this team. As far as like other positions, and that's the questionable thing, is that surprisingly this team feels like it's threadbare in the middle. They have a lot of players on this team that are either new this year or new last year. So it feels like the middle is something that you can penetrate. You can definitely take advantage of. But they've got a pretty stout defense. They've only given up, I think, 6 goals this year. And they've always had good goalkeeping. So this is going to be a team that's going to look different from the Bob Lilly teams from the past.
All right. I like it. The Pittsburgh Riverhounds always, to me, though, have had strong attacks, because you look at some of their back when we played in the USL days. I didn't like playing them. Luckily, FC Cincinnati came out ahead most of the time. This is honestly not a team that we are ill familiar with. Didn't we? We've already played them in the Open Cup as an MLS team. Am I correct there? I think that's true. I think one of our first years in the league, we played Pittsburgh in the Open Cup in their house.
I think it was 2018. That was our last year in the USL. After that Detroit win, we went to Pittsburgh and we beat them 3-1.
Yeah.
Penn Messi did the job for us to get on the board. I think Lance Lang and Daniel Haber, of all players, scored.
I remember that Lance Lang goal from like way downtown.
Yeah, I mean, that was a confident team going in there at Highmark Stadium, and that's what you really need coming into this game. You need to be confident. This is a Pittsburgh team that can be beaten. They lost this past weekend. They had to travel all the way to Las Vegas, and they lost 1-0 out there. So we worry about us traveling, having to go down to Atlanta and come back. At least we're not, taking a red eye back, from their last game.
Right.
Yeah. The best scenario is it's in our house. I know a lot of lower league fans complain that all U.S. Open Cup matches should be at the lowest league's stadium as like a extra home field advantage type of situation. But it really does do us well, even if we're playing secondary players, to be at home with our fans in a stadium we know, familiar with. This is this is a fun tournament. Come out. If you don't have plans to come out tomorrow, or if you're listening to this on the podcast today, go ahead and run it out. I love these games. They're a blast, and the stadium's not going to be crowded.
There's a lot of good matchups Tuesday night. I mean, we've mentioned our game in Columbus and Detroit, but you've got the Miami Derby, the Miami FC taking on Inter Miami. You got Tampa Bay Rowdies going to Orlando. You got San Diego going up to LA.
The Landon Donovan Cup.
Landon Donovan Cup. I mean, I used to be sort of anti-US Open Cup because I always had a problem with the fact that you had these amateur teams coming in and they would have to do like GoFundMes in order to pay for travel. And I didn't think that was a really good look. And I just kind of didn't care that much. But I will say, like, after a 2-year hiatus, I'm back on the train. I mean, absence made the heart grow fonder, and I'm looking forward to, seeing what happens. Hopefully, if we move on, who we play next, and seeing some of these matchups that you just don't see that much.
Magic of the Cup. Don't forget, that's how FC Cincinnati got on the national page. So we got to give homage to the tournament that really gave us a good MLS shake, because you had coaches and Garber and everybody getting their first home game coming into Nippert Stadium back in the day. So it always has a special place in my heart. I think I will always try to attend these games because of that. But I want to make it another round. You guys want to make it another round? You want to call it in, phone it in? Brian, I'm worried about you.
We're
What's
not
your answer?
phoning it in. We just have a lack of options. Like, I hope our young guys go out there and kick ass. Like, I want Harrison Robledo and Zico Bailey to run that midfield and run Pittsburgh off the field, but at the expense of the league. It's not our year, but whatever. I mean, I'm always going to root for the orange and blue.
Do you play Brenner?
Yeah, I think I don't know, man. Like I think okay. So my starting 11, again, this is probably a little different because I'm not sure where Zico goes, if he goes in the midfield or the right back role. But like
he could play any position, but
yeah. I mean, well, we just don't have the bodies. So I had a Tonga and Markanic, but maybe putting Kimi up top, and hell, maybe even putting like a Tonga right back. But Barreal, Robledo, Zico, Harris or Kimi in the midfield, Nelson left back, Hagelin, Murphy center back, question mark right back, and Celentano. So, I mean, that's a young group. It's a young group, and they're going to have to play a lot of minutes too. The worst thing that could happen to us is have to go play overtime. I'm such an a-hole.
As much as
I hate this take. I hate it.
As much as I don't want to bring bad vibes and karma into our play, we have numbers going for us. First of all, we have never lost the opening game in the U.S. Open Cup. The 4 years we've been in it, we've won all 4 times.
Yeah, but we played Cleveland.
And we also, they brought us into added extra time. That's the other thing.
Yeah,
three of these 4 games, we had to win in extra time.
When we played St. Louis, that wasn't the first.
That was not.
Indy 11, U21.
Okay, you're right.
Yeah. The other big thing here, guys, we have never lost to Pittsburgh. Never.
Really?
Yeah, but we've never won more than 1 game a year in TQL Stadium. So we've already won our 1 game. We've won our 1 game.
Have we never lost to Pittsburgh for real?
Yeah.
Never.
Correct.
But we also never lost a game to St. Louis FC. And they were the team that beat us the last time we were in the cup.
Yeah, we did do this. We've already done this thing on the show before.
Yeah.
Go back a couple years ago to the St. Louis episode. We did the same spiel. We've never lost. We can't lose. And then we did.
I'm sorry, guys. I didn't like that.
Realistically, this is FC Cincinnati's best chance to win a trophy this year, in my opinion.
No, you're right.
We're not winning the Supporters Shield this year. we would be incredibly lucky to win MLS Cup. It is not uncommon for, and I think FC Cincinnati is a good team, a good enough team to make the playoffs this year. It's not uncommon for bad MLS teams to go deep in the U.S. Open Cup. 2013, DC United, Epic Wooden Spoon wins the U.S. Open Cup.
It's also a precursor for some of your younger players.
Yes.
Look at Philly those years going to the finals twice.
It's a big thing to play for. It's the only trophy of significance that New England ever won.
Oh.
I say go all in. Put your chips on the table. First couple games, maybe play the kids. But if we advance further in this tournament, you really got to push for a championship.
55 minutes in, it's all it took for Jeffrey Tibbetts to bring up New England on his own.
That's how it works.
You're always going to get, when you have me and Jeff on, you're always going to get a New England reference and an RSL reference.
Yeah.
Every time.
Real Snark Lake, rest in peace. Brian, I heard some news today from the Post that the United States men's national team might be coming to TQL Stadium in June to host Ghana. Is it true?
Thank you for putting me on the spot for that. So I did that to Brad a couple weeks ago. Hey, what do you think about this guy? So yes, Cincinnati Soccer Talk is now, as of 9 p.m., now it's nearly 10 p.m., that we are also hearing that the U.S. Soccer is coming to TQL Stadium. Of course, putting that in print scares the crap out of me because we know how U.S. Soccer loves controlling all their messaging. So, but yeah, it should be exciting to see Ghana, and I'm excited to see what players get called up to the U.S. men's national team. Brandon Vasquez. So yeah, good. That's exciting to see what happens. So I'm gonna go. It's a Wednesday night, and I'm gonna go. But here's the thing. I want to bring little Brian. I think this is a much better atmosphere.
That would be great
to bring little Brian. Little young Brian's my 7-year-old son. If you're new to the show, so I want to bring him and just make that moment, show him some of these guys, because we watch all the qualifiers together, and so yeah, I'd much rather bring him to this game than USA Mexico, because I don't want to know what he's gonna learn at that game. I already took him to a hockey game and he learned SUCK this week, so that's great. That's great. You're gonna sit opposite of the Bailey.
That's not so bad overall in the scheme of things.
When he tells your teacher it, or the teacher it. Teacher use.
I was surprised. I saw a lot of outrage, though, on the initial news that the United States will be coming to Ohio again. They've been to Columbus twice.
15 times.
Twice very recently. Cincinnati very recently. This is supposedly the 5th time in the last year and a half or something like that. Is the United States men's, is U.S. soccer focusing on Ohio too much? Are the critics right? Is it hurting the game in other areas?
This is going to be a hot take. I love Ohio. I've got it tattooed on my arm. Yes. First of all, they're going to Columbus too much. Let's just throw that out there. Both the men and the women. Cincinnati is greater than Columbus, Joe. But yes, there are so many fine soccer venues in this country now. This isn't like the days of historic Crew Stadium where there's only like 1 or 2 really good places to play. We need the team needs to spread around the country a little bit.
So with that, I know U.S. Soccer didn't schedule the Gold Cup, but like you played all those games in Kansas City. I think Portland had. I mean, so all these places are getting games. I mean, I guess the big slight is the Northeast, like New York Red Bull Arena and things like that. But
we just lost a prominent game in New York. I don't care to go back.
We need to get over this whole idea
like 5
of
years
playing
ago.
in front of a hostile crowd.
It's 5 years.
You're gonna play in front of hostile crowds. Just go to those places.
Take it for what it's worth. But when Nashville opens, when St. Louis opens, when other new venues open, we're dropping down the list. So take what you can get now. And,
right. I mean, personally, I think it's nice that we're playing in Ohio, but I see another reason why we shouldn't be playing in Ohio. We really need to get our teams ready for the hotter climates. We need to be ready to play in heat. We need to be ready to play in intense sunlight.
You've been to Cincinnati in June? It's
Right.
miserable.
Humid, though.
Actually, it's more like August.
Right, but it's humid. Yeah,
Have you been at
that's the
Crew
thing.
Stadium? Sit in the second level. You'll burn
So
to
like
death.
these
Come on, they
games
got
should,
air conditioning in Qatar.
these games should be played in like Phoenix, and unfortunately, Mexico already claimed that stake. They're playing a few games, I believe. Glendale, they're playing
Indoor
in,
stadium.
but they're still playing in the hotter climates.
You can open the roof, turn off
it's
the air
overrated.
conditioning, and
Yeah.
What's one or two games in June going to do? They're going to be playing up through nearly December, for next year in England. So I mean, you're going to go from England playing 45 degrees to Qatar. You're not going to get any weather acclimation. I would rather go over there to learn what Qatar is going to be like than anything else. Like that's where we should play our friendlies, like what we did.
South Africa.
South Africa was it
With the Confederations Cup, right?
whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, we were in the Confederations Cup that year.
Yeah.
Before in like 2009.
I mean, I don't mind it being here. I think it would be fine. But if you're starting to complain about New York, about LA, about bigger locations as well, then you've got to go and fill those parks out. And you can't be charging people exorbitant costs to fill up 60,000 seat stadiums that nobody will want to go see these games.
Well, I mean, you got two factors. One, they've won in Ohio, so it's hard to not play here because they've been winning in Ohio. And the second thing is we do fill the stadiums out even when they charge us to death. And so I think that's the catch-22.
The negative, though, is that these really aren't competitive games. These are going to be games to see how well we can gel as a team. This is going to see the Brandon Vasquez's, to see the likes of maybe Cade Cowell or Luca De La Torre, to see how they play when they're not the big men. I mean, we've got a lot of injuries as the U.S. men's team, so we need to see how their replacements look.
Isn't that game? Oh, I guess I would say, when is our first CONCACAF Champions League match?
That's, I think, mid-June, right? And against Grenada.
Yeah, I'm looking for it.
Grenada and
El Salvador on the 14th of June.
I think that's at El Salvador.
Is that the Nations League? Is that what that?
Yeah.
You guys are starting to talk foreign
Grenada,
language.
March 24th. Yeah. So I don't know.
The predecessor to the United Nations.
I would see value. When we had the World Cup in Brazil, we did Camp Cupcake in Brazil. That winter before, so that I would rather see that. But again, we're still in a pandemic. It's that they're used to being here with the training facility and everything else. I don't know.
Let them come out.
We do a good job.
Yeah, as long as we keep doing a good job, and we have to keep now that the funny thing is now that this game is going to be in Ohio, knock on wood, I'm sure it'll be formally announced soon. It's our job to fill it out, so we have to keep proving that we can show up even to these friendlies, or these competitive warm-up games or whatever you want to call it. That's what that's our responsibility as Cincinnati fans, and go ahead and get Joe Blow in the suburbs to come down for the one game a year he does, and let's go. But it's about an hour, right? We need to wrap this thing up. Anybody have any final thoughts? Jeffrey Tebbets?
I'm not going to say too much, but I will say that this week I lost my grandfather. He finally passed away.
Sorry to hear
at 95. While it would have been nice to sort of introduce him to soccer and to get him interested in the game, he did bring me to a lot of Red Sox games, a lot of Celtics games, and he definitely helped spark my passion for the sports. So yeah, I love you, Grampy, and thank you for everything.
Condolences, sir.
Yeah.
Can't knock the Celtics. That's my namesake right there. Jason Ashcraft, you have to somehow go after that.
I feel you, Jeff. I lost my grandpa this past summer, back in 2021 or last fall. I know what you're going through. Real quick, one of the things I love about this league is just how goofy and niche it is. And as much as I love our fan base, there's a lot of good content creators out there covering MLS, and a guy on YouTube, if you don't follow him, Danny T Radio, watch his videos. He did a really cool video about the U.S. Open Cup, talking about some of the upsets and some of the Cinderella stories. So it's Danny T Radio at YouTube. Follow him, even though he is a Chicago Fire fan. He does some really great content, and you should give him a follow and kind of help, this grassroots stuff that is MLS.
It's a cool shout out, Danny T. I have no idea who you are, but I'm going to link you in the show notes. So if anybody wants to click on that, I'm going to go check that out myself after the show. Brian, what's going on in your head, buddy?
About to turn 35, losing hair by the day. No, I'm excited to see where this U.S. Open Cup run goes. Excited to see the young guys this week. Nothing as impactful as these two fine gentlemen before me, but got some Sorox, got the new lemon lime flavor. Great right now. It's good stuff. Check it out. Rehydrate your 8 irons. Definitely needed this weekend. I was with family all weekend, so I had to partake and got refreshed this way. So
nice.
Sorox.
There you go. Sorox, great partner of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. You can check it out. I think the code is CST 2022. We had a big debate in a few shows ago about what the code was, and Brian gave out an old code.
It worked for me.
the new
worked
code.
for Cliff Adams.
The new code is CST 2022, and maybe your discount will be even better than whatever Brian was chilling recently. Oh, my final thoughts. Appreciate you guys tuning in, sticking with the season. This season's actually pretty fun. The Growler Cup is all over the place. If you support CST, the Growler Cup has completely shifted again. So I can't wait to send you guys the scores. We have a new leader in first place. A bunch of people bet on FCC losing, and they got the draw. I love a season where we have no idea what Cincinnati's going to do in the next match. Like, as soon as you think they're going to lose against Atlanta because they don't have their players, they stick a striker as a midfielder, and then all of a sudden squeak out a point and turn the tables on you. So this is a great season. Loving the randomness of it, and FCC's kind of got a plan. That's cool. And it's different than the past 2 years. So this is the year to start paying attention again if you're just tuning in. Appreciate you listening to Cincinnati Soccer Talk. This has been episode 289. We can't wait for the big 300. See you next week.